Evans.
Thank you very much. Simon, I don't know if you have anything you want to say before I proceed.
All right. Thank you so much, Powell. You actually that was a very brief part of the same, and I trust that Evans will be picking that on that smoothly. So I don't know if maybe Evans, you are ready with the slides. We can take it from there.
Absolutely. First of all, I'd like to say that it always gives us total pleasure to have all our delegates here every week, because we run these trainings every week. And every time we hold these sessions, and more recently, what we've said is that what we are doing in this session here, the free training that we run at Capabile every Wednesday, is not just to give back to society, but hopefully to make a difference in the lives of those who make time to join these free trainings. And having said that, I want to just highlight the fact that whatever we are covering in these free webinars is what you call knowledge from the University of Life. So what we will discuss is actually what is happening in your life, actually limited theory to the greatest extent possible, so that at the end of the day, if we discuss anything here and you're not able to implement, it's because perhaps you've determined that this is not the right thing to act on. But the lessons we share here are purely practical. We also call this session the Streetwise University, where we bring the things we have witnessed out there in the streets. You know, when I was in university, we were in the, theoretical academics. Right here, we are doing practicals. And to get us started, as I project my material, I'd like to say that our time on this little rock, there's a small rock in the universe. It is called planet Earth. Our time on this small rock is limited. And we are going to give way to others to also occupy space on this small rock called planet Earth. When I talk about rocks, it reminds me when I was growing up in the village, down in Vihiga, in a very remote place where those days there was no roadmap to my home. And we used to be told at 10 a.m. in the morning to go out and sit in the sun so that we can get vitamin D between 10 a.m. and 11. I didn't know it was true until COVID hit us, and we were told during this pandemic that you need to be sitting in the sun. So I realized that science doesn't change, it remains the same. Similarly, your exposure and time on this little rock called Earth is limited, because you're going to have to give way to the next generation. But before you do so, you need to ask yourself when you'll meet your creator, when time comes, and your creator will ask you what you did with the body, the eyes, the hands, the wisdom, the brain. Will you be proud of the answers you're going to give God about how you spend your time on his little rock known as planet Earth? Now, in our lives, before I go to these slides, in our lives, we often blame the system, we blame the environment, we even blame the government, we actually blame our neighbor, we blame everybody, right? And we even often conclude, quite often, that the system is set up to make us fail. And we believe in this. And what we forget is that if you look at your contemporaries, the people you grew up with, some of them are actually doing just fine. And yet, you and those contemporaries, the people you schooled with, grew up with, you are exposed to the same market conditions, to the same laws, to the same tax regime, to the same pool of opportunities. And yet, some of you are pulling ahead of your colleagues, while the rest are lagging behind. So I want you to ponder that before I get into the slides. and ask yourself, why is that so? Now, one other fact I want us to recognize before we proceed is the fact that everything each one of us knows, whether you're in this session or those who are not here today, everything we know, we have learned it. We have learned it. I remember I studied education at the university, and we were told that a child's brain, when they're born, is something some theorists call the tabula rasa, which is a plain sheet on which things are written. So everything you know, you have learned. And Simon, always confirm to me if I'm audible and I can be heard.
Thank you, Evans. You are very clear, and we can hear you.
Very good. And then let me come to the next thing before we go to the slides. Don't be worried about it. We'll go to the slides. There's a distinction between knowing the reasons why we are not succeeding, and there is also something else called whether we will do anything at all so that we can change our circumstances. Because you can come up with a long list of reasons why you've not taken any action, financial plans, but it's a different matter altogether whether you decide that you will do everything possible to achieve progress. And remember, if we have excuses for not doing or acting on the lessons that we have learned, if we have those excuses, you know them, that I didn't have time, oh, I'm too busy, they give me a lot of work at my office, right? So we'll have those excuses. But the problem is that if you allow your excuses to stand in your way, if you allow your excuses to be the reason for your inaction, then I think there's a problem, right? Now, the other thing I want to say before we get started is that what I'm saying here could get you emotional, and you can get upset about the situation you are in. Maybe we are talking here about retirement planning, and some of us are not ready based on what we've just heard. Recently, we did a simple, quick survey, and we found that in a group of around 30 delegates that we surveyed in a training, about only 15% of them said that they are ready on a scale of 0 to 10, 5 out of 10, 15% of them were ready. The rest declared that they were totally unready for retirement. Now, from today going forward, we are going to be challenging our delegates to ask them, they listen to the lessons we share and sit back with the knowledge, or they'll choose to act on those lessons so that they can realize progress. And hopefully one day you can attribute that progress to the challenge we are putting forward to you. Because at the end of the day, these sessions we are running are supposed to transform society. We shouldn't come here and spend your full hour and we fail to make a difference in terms of how our society is going to be impacted in a positive way. Now, if you don't feel any pain in the things you're doing, it's because progress hasn't yet started. You see, the point of success is that sacrifices have to be made, and sacrifices come with pain. It is the same thing when you go to the gym and you're stretching, you want to cut some mass on your body. There are people who give up the moment they start feeling pain. And yet when pain starts, that's when the actual work begins. And as a general rule of life, it is said that we should always seek new problems to solve, and we should seek good problems. And every day we should pray God to give us good problems to solve. Good problems like planning for our retirement, good problems like having a good investment strategy and implementing it, right? Bad problems are like violating the COVID-19 curfew and then you get thrown into the government cells. That's a bad problem because it's going to rob you of your time. And you could get other problems along the way. So in closing on this introduction, I just want to say that all of us, each one of us, has a responsibility to own our progress. Each one of us has a responsibility to own our own progress. And I may just add that there's something I learned when I was still pursuing the CPA course, which was that if you were to draw a curve, you remember the demand and supply curve, which was running, from the lower left corner rising up to the top right corner, and you have your y-axis and the x-axis, and your y-axis is representing value creation while your x-axis is representing time. Over passage of time, the small positive actions you take every hour, every day, consistently, you don't have to overwork yourself. You just need to work for only 2 hours productively, consistently, for every day without exhausting yourself. And the results will start to manifest. And in just 5-10 years, people will start to say, perhaps you are an Illuminati, and yet you are just one individual who has what we call fanatical discipline. Fanatical discipline. And we're going to talk about these things at a future session. So allow me to come to this and say that we want to talk about personal finance and retirement planning, and we'll zero in a lot on retirement planning. And I have a question for you as we get started. And that question is, what has been your most memorable personal finance lesson or the most memorable decision you've taken in the last 2 years as regards your investments and the personal finance? Is there any decision or lesson or challenge you have gone through? The lesson could be defined by describing for us a challenge that you have encountered. So you can type your response. We have a chat section for this webinar, and you can go down there and just type your response, and they will be able to see what your biggest challenge has been over the last 2 years. And you shouldn't just focus on the challenge. You need to ask yourself, are there any lessons that you have learned arising from those challenges? So please, just take 10 seconds. I want you to take 10 seconds to think about the answer to this question. So your 10 seconds begin now. All right, so you'll make time and type your answer for us so that we can learn from you. So let's talk about financial planning. And I don't want to take you back to the definition of a plan, but I'll mention that a plan is an outline of future actions, that will result in predetermined objectives being realized. So you can outline, for instance, that you want to save this amount of money so that you can invest that money perhaps in unit trusts. You can put the money in a fixed deposit account. You can purchase shares. You can start a small, business. We are going to look at some of the variety of investments you could consider. Now, that's the definition of a plan. You can use any other words to define a plan. And financial planning simply means that you have sat down and thought about an outline of actions you're going to take in regards to your finances. Finances refer to your money. And when you think about your money, you think about your money in terms of your future expenditures and your future incomes. When you spend your money, ask yourself, am I going to earn a return in terms of value or any other form of return from this expenditure? Does this expenditure add value? And if I'm going to spend this money in future, where will I get it from? Will I get it from my salary? Am I running a part-time, job that is going to earn me the money that I'll spend on this? So that's a financial plan, and we can talk about that in detail at a later stage. So just a few questions, a few points to note about financial planning. Number one, you need to ask yourself whether you have good plans, and good plans are those that are linked to results. And what is a result? Results are measured at 3 levels. The first level of measuring results are outputs. So for instance, if you say that you want to go into avocado farming, now that avocados are in high demand, that is insatiable in the Middle and Far East as well as Europe, and Kenya now is the #1 producer of avocados in Africa, and we can't even meet that demand. And it explains why in central Kenya now you have avocado millionaires. And if you speak to Calro, the guys at the former institution in government called Kenya Agriculture Research Institute, they'll tell you the places where these things thrive. You need to ask yourself, if you're putting aside Kenya shillings 50,000 to plant avocados, ask yourself in terms of results, what outputs do you want to see in terms of the tilled land, where you're planting and the planted avocados and that the seedlings have survived. That's number one result. Level 2 of results are outcomes. Outcomes means how will this improve your financial well-being? And they say those avocados actually mature in 3 to 4 years. That's when you start harvesting. So over that time, can you achieve the outcome of improving the diversity of your revenue? Now, level 3 of measuring results is to ask yourself, those avocados you're planting, will they have the impact of improving the quality of your life? So that if you increase your income base, does that mean that you are able to afford a higher quality life, right? Put up a nice retirement home using the income, take your kids to good schools so that they get quality education, buy yourself a holiday in a nice location. So overall, these last things I'm talking about is the impact on the quality of your life, because your standard of living should change as a result of your financial success. You shouldn't be those guys who actually have the cash, but they continue to live in squalor so that after they die, other people come to enjoy the money they worked so hard to realize. So after you ask this question about whether you have good plans, I want you to ask yourself or take note of the fact that bad plans will lead to wasted spending and lost time. I told you we are living on this small rock called planet Earth, and you need to manage how you use your time on planet Earth. We are not in any way saying that you should become a workaholic. We're just saying you need to be smarter. If you determine that every day you're going to work for 3 hours very productively on your financial plans and activities, do it. And then leave the rest for tomorrow and the day after, and be consistent. That is what we call fanatical discipline. You need it for you to be successful. The next question becomes, what is the state of your income? What is the state of your income? Do you still depend just on the salary? Do you have alternative sources of income? If you're investing, are you trying to solve an income problem or you're solving an investment problem? And there's a difference between the two. And we can talk about that in due course. And how much of your income can you use on the plans that you have? Because again, this aspect we call timing. You don't just rush into investing your money into the plans. You need to ask yourself in terms of timing, when will I be ready? Is it in a year's time, 2 years' time before I commence this project? The next thing becomes that if you have plans and you don't implement them, those plans are of little value, completely of little value. And the last thing I want you to take note of is that, do you have realistic and measurable plans? When I was talking here about results, I'm talking about being able to measure your success. Because they say that if you can't measure it, then it's not realistic, because you need to be able to measure for you to progress. Otherwise, if you can't measure what you're trying to achieve, how will you ever know that you have achieved progress? I mean, underline the word progress, because your ability to achieve progress is of the greatest significance, because I told you our time on this little rock called Earth is limited. So you need to be really smart about it. Let me talk here about investing for income and investment. So I'll give you a quick distinction. I believe majority of us in this session, whenever we invest, we are investing for income, including myself, because we are still trying to solve income problems. You can compare a person like myself who wants to invest because I want to find cash to purchase bundles so I can continue communicating. I want to be able to buy dinner, because if I don't get that income, I'm in trouble. I might sleep hungry. I want to be able to pay rent, right? I need to be able to pay for transport to the office. I'm solving income problems because I don't have sufficient income to meet my needs. Then you have other people who invest to solve what we call the investment problems. And you can imagine a billionaire like Mr. Chris Kirubi, who built Two Rivers Mall in partnership with other investors. Even if Two Rivers does not get full occupancy for 10 years, Mr. Kirubi will never worry about his data bundles, his ability to pay rent for his house, because those income problems, he has already solved them. And I could get time to go deeper into those illustrations of the difference. For instance, when you are investing in your education, like you're investing in your education, you're actually solving an income problem. If you can accumulate enough income such that you solve your income problems, then you can spare money to put into solving purely investment problems such that you can wait, you can be patient, like Mr. Chris Kirubi. Even if people refuse to rent his spaces at Two Rivers, he'll wait for them because he's not willing to charge below the market rates. So let me move on a little bit here and just say that your finances, you need to look at your finances now and also think about in retirement, what are your priorities? You need to ask yourself whether you are spending or planning your finances so that you meet your needs or meet your wants or saving for the future. So if you think about these three elements, there's a formula that was put forward by an American politician called Elizabeth Warren. So those of you present here who have followed American politics, you know that Elizabeth Warren actually put herself forward as a candidate for the recently concluded American elections. And Elizabeth came up with what she called the 20-30-50 rule, where she said, for example, if your net salary per month is 100,000 shillings, Elizabeth recommends that you need to save 20% of that salary so that those savings can accumulate and you will put them into an investment of your choice in future. So she says, as a minimum, you need to save 20% or out of the 100K. And then Elizabeth goes further to say that you take 30% of the 100K, which is actually 30,000, and use it for your wants. And wants are things that you can forego actually. Like, you know, you like to go have coffee at Java, you like to go, you know, purchase a designer shoe so that you look good in public. It has something to do with your self-esteem. You know, those luxuries that make you, you know, that trendy dress. Put aside 30% of your income to purchase those. After all, life is for the living. So why should you deny yourself those luxuries? Then meeting your needs. These are things that you cannot avoid. You need to pay your rent. You need to pay for your cooking gas. You need to pay for your bundles because nowadays you can't do without bundles because you have to communicate via internet. And I don't know, you can give me the extended list of your needs. So for the needs, you allocate 50% of the 100,000. Now, but Elizabeth goes further to say that depending on your circumstances, you can adjust those percentages so that you reduce the amount of money you're allocating to your needs, depending on your scale of needs, so that more money is allocated to your savings. So instead of doing 20% as minimum to savings, you can even increase your savings to as high as 40 or even 50%, and you play around with what is left for your wants and needs. So this is something you can sit down and think about in practice and ask yourself, how do you go about allocating your income, your monthly income, or your salary, or whatever source your livelihood comes from. So let's come here and talk about investment just a little bit. We received a question late last week from one of our delegates who was asking if they wanted to invest as they plan for retirement, how would they go about choosing which investment to go into? So right now, I want you to just pause, breathe in, and think about investing in primary services, and then think about investing in secondary services. There's a difference. And while you do that, because I'm going to give you some examples of this, while you do that, I want you to come here and look at this hierarchy. This is what we call the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The people who pursued education, like myself, at Kenyatta University, we were taken through a lot of things about human psychology, motivation, and all those theories about human beings. And one of the things that we learned was Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And this Maslow's hierarchy of needs highlights the things that you need at a basic level, which are actually needs, and the ones which actually begin from here going up. So let's just come down here on the physiological needs. So you need air. I think one day we are going to pay for air, but I hope never. And then you need water. the guys who have invested in the water industry, bottled water, you see how they're doing booming the business. Food. I don't know how many of you will forego lunch today. We can see by comments in the chat, just say that today you'll forego lunch. And the only time I normally encourage my friends to forego lunch is because they were reading a book. You need to suffer and fast and forego lunch often so that you use that time and money saved to purchase a book and read. I think we have echo. I don't know why that is, but it will be fixed. And if you are going to forego lunch to read a book, I can assure you over time, you're going to be able to acquire knowledge that will enable you to feed an entire community. So that's the only time I know you can forego food, but just let's keep it simple. I want to know after this session, how many people will forego food? And then shelter, where you spend your night last night, and then tonight you're gonna sleep somewhere. Shelter and sleep, they're here, right here, these are needs. Then you have clothing, you have to dress yourself. You can't walk naked in public. Reproduction. If you go and speak to the gynecologists, experts, those doctors, you'll find that the wealthiest gynaes are those who are actually specialists in reproduction, because they have the methodologies to enable people who have delayed conception to be able to have children. And remember, giving birth and reproducing is a very important function of human development. It is the same reason why countries like Japan and China are very worried, because there's a slowing rate of reproduction in those countries. Right now, you need to check online. You'll find that in a country like Singapore, they are paying couples up to Kenya shillings 1 million when they give birth to a child. I wish they could bring that here in Kenya, and we'd make a lot of money, right? So while keeping down here, I want to just let you know that these are actually primary services. If you put your investments in supplying these services, then you have a good chance of succeeding, a very good chance, as long as you address customer service. Customer service has become a very, very critical ingredient for business success. And I've been once asked by some of our delegates that these services require you to be present. How will they be able to do this, especially those who want to do this as a side hustle? And the answer I gave them was that once you have the right people working for you and you are able to review and verify the key indicators of performance that you have set, the KPIs for their performance, then you'll be successful. And so if you look at these services, if you are to supply these services, you'll do well. That's why some of you already have a budget for lunch today. And those who are traveling, you are going to have to pay for your accommodation. So try to think about these primary services and invest in this, and you're going to make money. Then you have got safety needs. Safety needs. There's personal security. The people in Kenya who have invested in security, the security companies, they are doing bumper business as long as they are fixing the customer service element. Customer service has become actually a #1 priority for businesses because right now, you'll understand why you receive a lot of messages from the people you buy from, whether it's Safaricom or the small SME. Every time they're thanking you and asking, what else can we do you? Were you happy with the service? Because every business is worried about customer service. Now, you realize that we have employment here, we have other resources. There's health sector, you can't do without this. The people who have invested in the health sector are doing very well, because you can see that even the people producing the COVID-19 vaccine are now instant billionaires, because all of us badly need to be healthy, right? And the people are willing to pay for health with their entire life savings so that they can survive and live to see another day. Then property. Property could be linked back here, because if you are thinking of shelter and where to sleep, then investing in property, and particularly property that is designated for accommodation, then you're going to do pretty well. Now, what we are saying here is that if you're investing in primary services, what I'm talking about sounds very juicy and promising, But you have to act on this. I said in my opening remarks, you can't just learn stuff in this session and go sit back with the knowledge. You must go and implement. And as you implement, you need to remember what it is that your customers want. Never forget customer service. For those of you here, I know you will go and implement what we are discussing. At the end of the day, remember customer service. Ask yourself, what do the customers want? And one more thing I have to say is that investing is not easy. You have to be prepared to wait for the results, because you can't go in and tomorrow you are successful. We can tell you that because we've been through this journey at Capabil, at Pesel Limited, that is our subsidiary, at Tupac, which is a company we set up during the COVID-19 pandemic. All of these things call for patience. Let me talk about secondary services. The secondary services are here. Secondary services are like this business we are in of training, Capabil Limited. We do training. We run these weekly free webinars or free online seminars every week. And we run other trainings in Mombasa. Others are running in Singapore, Dubai. Others are running in Addis Ababa, Istanbul, Turkey. And those trainings are secondary services because you don't need them. Even if we don't train you, you'll still be alive. They are not needs. They're secondary services. But people go for them because they have an impact in how your career plays out or how successful you become by being good at certain skills, like being good at data analytics intelligence, like being good at leadership, being good at effective governance. All of those things, we do them in businesses such as Capabil Limited, where we do training. So you can opt today to go and set up a company that invests in secondary services, or you opt to invest in a company that supplies primary services. Now, when you think of secondary services, when you come here, things like respect, self-esteem, all right? That's why people like Mercedes-Benz survive. Because you see, you can purchase a Vitz and it will still take you to Kisumu or Mombasa, right? Because your need is to move from point A to B. But there are people who need to fulfill their self-esteem. So they purchase an expensive Porsche Cayenne to be able to drive to Mombasa, right? And companies like Porsche are running a secondary services business because there is a segment of customers that need those services. So allow me to move. What I'm trying to say is that you don't have to drive a Porsche or a Mercedes to be alive. When we talk about investment, so you have things such as what you're seeing here. And I just want to say that I've already talked about property in the hierarchy of needs, investing in shares, the stock exchange, we can talk about that in detail. Planting crops, I gave the example of avocados, okay? And engaging in these activities will earn you income, but they'll also keep you healthy. So at the end of this session, I want you to take time thinking about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs and investing in primary services and secondary services. In future, we are going to have a more detailed and even what I would call a project-based approach, where we are going to illustrate practically how you would go even allocating resources, how you would mobilize resources, how would you would launch your action plan to invest in the primary services sector, how you would set up that business, how you would monitor your success at the level of and marking and tracking customer feedback, how you act on that customer feedback, how you manage your finances for your startup. And those of you who are here, you need to tune in into the upcoming session that we are running in early April that is going to show you a practical example of how to start a business and run it. And we'll share some of the lessons that you need to keep in mind if you're looking at starting a side hustle or that kind of thing. Now, let me say something about personal finance and retirement. One fact is that all of us will retire one day. Those of us who are in an office, we're not going to have any office power anymore because the young guys who are coming up from campus will replace us. Then we're going to have limited influence. And if we'll still have any influence, it will be reduced. When we retire or when we close in on retirement, our cash flow will also reduce, right? And the question becomes, those who are retiring, when are we retiring? You need to think about the date when you are retiring, because you need to look at the time you have. So you start taking action on that that are going to make a difference for your retirement planning. So let's talk about death and why many retirees die early, and all of us will die. So don't be afraid to talk about early death or delayed death, because this is a path for everybody. That's why our grandparents and others we love have passed on. It's a path for all of us. Now, this early death is triggered by lack of finances. Many people are not mentally prepared to retire. That's why you find, for example, in government, when people reach retirement, they start writing letters requesting extension, even on half salary, because they are not prepared. People become lonely, and the greatest source of loneliness is if you don't have a source of income. Now, you don't have to be old and going for retirement to be lonely after losing your source of income. Even now, if you're young and you lose your job, you lose all your friends. Most of them, actually 90% will flee you. 90% will run away. Okay, there's a joke. There's a concept in Kenya we call slay queens. Have you ever heard of slay queens? Anyone here who has heard of slay queens? So I can see somebody has just raised their hand. So we have slay queens, and I'm told slay queens are attracted to people who have money. So there's a friend of mine who was very frustrated the other day because there's a slay queen who didn't show up. So he had a chance to confront the slay queen and ask the slay queen, "You mean you are never available when I invite you?" And the slay queen was very rude. The slay queen told my friend that, as we are always available, it depends on who is asking us out. And it also depends on the depth of your pocket. Well, I don't know if that's funny or it's annoying. It's up to you to decide. So my friend was very lonely because he didn't have a deep pocket. And this can be a consequence across the road. I've gone through this personally. When I left Rwanda and I came back to Kenya, I didn't have a job. I lost most of my friends. And I was not bitter. It's human nature. Please don't take a grudge. If you've lost your job or you'll be losing one and your friends run away from you, don't get angry and mad at them. Go and look at the primary and secondary services, set up a business, reach out to those friends and tell them we have an amazing product. Ask them, can you please be my customer? And that relationship will be restored. That's how you do it. So if you retire and you're broke, you're going to be very lonely. And that loneliness is going to trigger depression, and depression kills very fast. You could develop hypertension or these lifestyle diseases because you're very worried, you're anxious, there's a lot of uncertainty, and there are so many financial pressures, and you don't have the energy to compete with the young guys that you want to compete with. So please, as I said in my introduction to this session, let us act. Let us act on what we are learning. Nobody was born knowing everything they know today. Everything we know today, we have learned. The mistake we make is not to be willing to go through the pain of taking action on what we have learned. Now, some tips for retirement, because we are closing down on this session. We are about to end. Some tips is that don't retire away from your job. Instead, retire to a well-designed retirement plan. That is self-explanatory. Part-time work can be a good way to face into retirement. Get a side hustle. We have what we call the gig economy. If you are talented in finance, you're talented in data analytics. I think somebody is making noise. I don't know if there's a lot of interference, but I think the noise is fading. Number 3, consider building your dream home now. Don't wait. Don't wait. Even if your costs will overrun, you still have the energy and time to complete your house or your home. Choose where you want to build your home and build it. If you think your retirement savings are not on track, make changes while you are still working and create a good financial plan, right? Also keep taxes and penalties in mind if you're considering withdrawing money from your retirement accounts. Now, this point on tax, We have a division at Capable dealing with taxes. In a few days, we are going to make a major announcement on the free online seminars like this one. We are going to make a major announcement. We are restructuring these trainings, and we are going to have sessions to take you through tax education if you are going to be impacted by taxes in terms of your retirement planning. And we will help you to be more ready for what lies ahead when it comes to matters such as tax. So stay tuned. The announcement is on the way. Our team is working behind the scenes to unveil an amazing product for you. And it's all going to be for free. You need to invest wisely and find a trusted financial advisor. Speak to us. We are not the best, but there are a few things we know. We can share our 10 cents or 2 cents if you wish about the situation you are facing. And we are not going to ask you to pay us anything. So keep that in mind. And as we close this, I want you to know that your desk at your workplace is not permanent. Plan for your retirement finances now. Don't wait. Plan and take action. Then we have a few questions for you to consider as we wind up. Do your personal finances worry you? Why do they worry you? What was the most difficult or best decision you had to make about your personal finances recently? Is there any decision you have taken? Remember, if you've taken not good decisions or even bad decisions, failing to take a decision is also a decision. So your decision could be that you didn't decide. On a scale of 0 to 10, I want you to post the results in the chat if you're courageous enough. How ready are you for retirement today? If you're about to go home today, Wednesday, the 10th of March, 2021, if you're told to retire today, how ready are you for retirement? And I want you to think about the lessons that you've learned today. And we're in the question and answer session. And I'd like to hand over the program back to Simon to tell us what to do. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, Evans. It was so deep. I mean, the issue of personal finances is a critical thing because in as much as we are in the public domain trying to hustle and securing our future, if we don't do it well enough, retirement might find us unprepared, and we might really suffer. So with all the lessons that you have shared, I trust that the delegates in the room have been awakened. I can see Marcela had commented something to do with one of the biggest lessons that she has learned. She has learned that if you want things done right, do it yourself. Yeah, and this also resonates very well with one of the key emphases that Evans you have just shared with us. That don't just take the knowledge, but act on it. So in as much as you plan things and you attend these sessions, it's good that you take action, because once you take action and you do it right, things will always work out. David Omer added and said that in as much as we set plans at times, the challenge is to stick to those plans, because most of the time things come along and they alter whatever it is that we have planned. And I know that resonates to almost all of us at some point. Richard adds and says, most memorable finance lesson for him was depending on SACCO for his savings and loan. And with COVID, employment was severely hit, and that rendered the SACCOs very risky vehicles. And hence now he's thinking of diversifying to other avenues. Well, I think Richard, and for those who can relate, we have picked quite a number of good avenues of strategies that we can start acting on. Zakil says that will be wonderful to start with that practical mentorship. Yes, we will put ways in which to ensure that we carry out the practical mentorship programs, even as we continue to enhance our virtual sessions and to make sure that anytime you log in and have these discussions with us, you reap maximum value from it. And yeah, when we came to the close of the presentation, Evans had asked her on a scale of 0 to 10. I can see Joy Bore has given a rating of 1. What about those of us who have not yet given us our rating? Yeah, I know most of us maybe are at 0. Me, I can say I'm at 0. Yeah, But with these solid lessons, I know I won't take any of it for granted, of course, and my future will not be the same. For the days that God will allow me work on this planet, I know I will do my best and take these points into action, and my retirement will be secure. Wilson Bugua has a rating of 6. I think you are doing good. Congratulations. Wilson, you say need to increase income streams and cash flow is key. All right. Now, if there are any other comments, you can keep them flowing in. You can just text there. Leah JB has a rating of 4. I wish we could all just type something, yeah, approximately, so that at least we can see what the trend is. Yeah? We can see which kind of figure is cutting across. Yeah. And
Zacchaeus Abuga. Abuga, if you're there.
Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus is one of our very loyal attendees, and he has never missed, together with the FCPA Francis, they've never missed these sessions. And I know their life is very, very different. And many of us who are here and are always joining these sessions, I know your life is very different, because what you have been reaping all through is something that is remarkable. Wilson also adds that we have to invest in financial literacy and implement lessons learned as advised here. If you hear that kind of comment from someone who has a rating of 6, then you must be sure that it's actually working for him. If we have any questions, kindly, I can see it's 1:09 p.m. Let us have a 5-minute duration for questions. You can just raise your hand, I'll pick on you, and then we can have our experts in the house respond. Of course, we have FCPA Evans. We also have Powell, who started the sessions for us and set the pace for the training today. I'm not seeing any hands up. Kindly just.
Hi, Simon.
Yes.
Hi, Simon.
Yes, Evan.
Could Mr. Mbugua share with us just one lesson, one key lesson that contributed to his success, the 6 out of 10?
Yes. In fact, his hand is up. Yes, Wilson.
Yes, thank you very much, Evans and Simon for sharing this. I just wanted to say that for those of us who are married, working as a couple, as you plan your investment, as you walk through life, is very, very important. Because sometimes what happens is that you find families where people are pulling in different directions. They don't get the synergy that they require, to be able to move forward. Making decisions together, agreeing on what you are doing, being on the same boat, checking with each other, because sometimes you might find we come together with different skills and complements and backgrounds, so you can complement each other. I think that's one thing that is very, very important to be able to make progress, and also that consistency, starting early and just doing these things, on a day-to-day basis and making progress. And I fully agree with Evans. It doesn't help for you to know. It's better even if you know it through and implement it, than knowing so much and you don't implement. It will not be of any value. So I say, and I believe if we have to learn from this period that we have been through. We are still through it. We are not yet done with the COVID environment, something that affects the whole world. I think in our lifetime, we may not have seen something that of that great magnitude. But the tragedy will be if we come out of this and we have not learned, and then we do business as usual, then it means that we will still be exposed. I really like talking about retirement planning. I have been in that space for a long time. So I know, and I was basically helping people just to manage their retirement. And I was a trustee for a pension fund for over 10 years. So you can imagine managing billions of shillings for people's retirement. So I know how important it is. And I wish our people would be able to understand, keep something aside, for that, for your older self. Don't eat everything now. Thank you.
Thank you, Wilson. Okay, don't eat everything now. I think I can take that home, and most of us can also take that home too. Any other person with something that you can add? Thank you so much, Wilson. Thank you so much for that. I see Nixon saying, what a wonderful training, very insightful. Thank you, Nixon, for always tuning in and ensuring that you attend these sessions. Yeah, I can see Lorraine. Lorraine, your microphone is active. Do you want to share something with us? Lorraine Odhiambo. Yes, Corinne. Okay, it seems she's trying to say something, but her microphone is not picking. Zacchaeus Abuga, you can say something. Okay, Zacchaeus maybe is not in a position to say, but so far so good. We are happy when we engage in this manner because it's a direct indication that we are actually enlightened and that these sessions are actually having an impact. And for the times that we'll always come together to share, always feel free to air out your views. And so we can always get to know which buttons to press, even as we continue to schedule for such kind of events and topics. And also, when you share also with us, we get to capture those ideas that we might have left out, and any other recurring sessions will be able to be better than the previous sessions. And that is how we continue to improve and continue to create value and ultimately improve our society in general. So I know time is actually running out, but I want to take this opportunity to appreciate, honestly, on behalf of Capabil, very grateful for your trust in our services all this time. And just to keep reminding you, these sessions are here to stay. And another good thing, another good news is that we have heard it from FCP Evans. We are coming up with a way of, for sessions like this, so that we can have that practical mentorship aspect of it, so that in as much as we learn and take away important knowledge that will help us make decisions and implement, we also have that mentorship aspect where we see how those who have succeeded have actually done it, so that we can see how we can also do the same. So with that, I would like to just wind the session, and I will do that by reminding us to register for the next webinar. So I'll just share the link on our chat box so that you can use this time to actually go to the site and ensure that you have secured your chance to join us in the next session. The next session will involve a topical discussion on emerging social media strategies. No, it will be on communications, communications in the 21st century. And we will be looking at how to influence stakeholders and business partners in our day-to-day business life. So kindly ensure that you log in and register for that, so that you will be part of us. So I've just shared the link. I've placed the link on the chat box. You can click and go to our website. And once you're on our website, also take your time to look at our physical trainings, because the physical trainings are also catching up so well. And so don't forget to just have a glance on them and see if you and your colleagues or an organization can call us and have that kind of arrangement done for you. Many organizations are calling us, and we are actually serving their needs. Sometimes you might realize some programs you might need a note in our calendar, but it doesn't mean you don't provide them. So you can also tell us your preferences in terms of topics, so that we can sit down with our experts and make sure that we actually give you what you want. Now, before I end the session, let me allow Regan to greet the delegates and say one or two things, then we can disperse and continue working on our personal schedules for the afternoon. So, Mr. Regan.
So I just want to thank Evans for that great presentation. I think that was really timely. And like we keep on promising everyone, we are doing everything we can to make sure that you don't see our our pre-webinars empty-handed. We keep on doing daily research. We talk to a number of professionals on their respective fields, and everything we do will be for the best interest of everyone. So we thank you for your time. And just have CPA Evans have mentioned, there's so much that we are planning to do for you to make sure that every time you attend our events, then you will not leave the same person that came into those events. So thank you for your time, and we look forward to seeing you in our next webinar, that is next week. There is also a trainer that is in place, and everything is just ready. So thank you for your time, and we hope to see you again next week. Back to you, Machi.
All right, guys, that was Regan, who is our active CEO at Capable. And we are working with him and our entire team to make sure that all our professionals' needs are met. So with that, I would like to end the session, but in a special way to thank all attendees and our experts in the house, CPA Evans, Powell, and other gurus like Wilson here, who will continue working with. So thank you so much. May we have a blessed afternoon, even as we engage in our other personal schedules for the day. See you next week. Bye.